Joanne Rowling was born on July 31, 1965, in the small town of Yate, near Bristol, England. Her parents, Peter and Anne Rowling, met when they were both working at the same company. Peter was an aircraft engineer, and Anne was a laboratory technician. From the beginning, Joanne's life was shaped by modesty and simplicity. Her family was not rich, but they lived a comfortable and peaceful life. Joanne was the first child of the family. 2 years later, her younger sister Diane was born. When Joanne was about 4 years old, the family moved to the village of Winterbourne. Their house was near a bakery, and Joanne later remembered playing with the baker's children and making up stories with them. From a young age, she showed signs of being deeply imaginative. She would often write fantasy tales and read them to her little sister. In one of her earliest stories, a rabbit named Rabbit got sick with the measles and received visits from various animal friends. This small story may seem simple, but it already showed her love for storytelling and creating magical characters. Books were a central part of Joanne's childhood. She loved to read and was especially drawn to fantasy books and classic children's literature. One of her favorite authors was C.S. Lewis, the writer of The Chronicles of Narnia. She also adored books by E. Nesbit and enjoyed fairy tales and adventure stories. Her parents always supported her interest in reading and encouraged her to be curious. As a student, Joanne was smart, but she wasn't always happy at school. She wore thick glasses and was often quiet and shy. Sometimes, other children made fun of her. But instead of letting that hurt her, she turned to books and her imagination as a safe space. She started to dream of becoming a writer one day, although she kept that dream mostly to herself. When Joanne was 9 years old, the family moved again, this time to the town of Tutshill, near the border with Wales. It was here that she attended secondary school and began to take her writing more seriously. One of her teachers recognized her talent for writing and encouraged her to keep going. But at the same time, Joanne's childhood began to grow more difficult. Her mother, Anne, had started to show symptoms of a serious illness called multiple sclerosis. Joanne was still a young girl when she saw her mother's health slowly begin to decline. This was a painful time for the family. Joanne felt helpless, watching her strong, lively mother become weaker and more tired over the years. This experience would later deeply influence her writing, especially the theme of loss in the Harry Potter books. Despite the challenges, Joanne never stopped writing. She filled notebooks with stories, ideas, and magical creatures. Her childhood was not always easy, but it was filled with imagination, books, and a growing desire to turn her stories into something bigger. By the time she finished school, Joanne had already decided that she wanted to study literature and languages. She had no idea yet that the magical world forming in her head would one day change her life, and the lives of millions of readers around the world. After finishing high school, Joanne Rowling decided to attend the University of Exeter, where she studied French and the classics. At first, she chose French because her parents believed it would lead to a good, stable career, perhaps as a bilingual secretary or translator. Joanne had a deep love for literature, but at that time, she didn't think becoming a writer was a realistic or practical goal. During her university years, Joanne spent a year studying in Paris, improving her language skills and experiencing life in a different culture. She described herself as a fairly average student who didn't study very hard, but who read a lot outside of her required coursework. Her professors remembered her as intelligent and thoughtful, though she didn't always take her studies seriously. While her classmates were focused on exams and jobs, Joanne often disappeared into the world of books and writing. After graduating from university in 1986, Joanne moved to London and began working for Amnesty International as a researcher and bilingual secretary. Amnesty International is a global organization that fights for human rights. Joanne often said that working there opened her eyes to the suffering of people in other parts of the world and made her more aware of injustice. Although she appreciated the work, the office job didn't excite her. Deep down, she still dreamed of becoming a writer, but she wasn't sure how to make it happen. One of the most important moments in Joanne Rowling's life came in 1990, when she was traveling by train from Manchester to London. The train was delayed, and during that quiet, boring trip, something magical happened. Out of nowhere, the idea for a young boy who discovers he's a wizard came into her mind. She didn't have a pen, so she sat and imagined the details: his name, his messy hair, the scar on his forehead, the school he would attend. She later said that Harry Potter just fell into her head during that train ride. From that moment on, she began writing furiously. Over the next few years, she started building the magical world of Hogwarts, its students, its teachers, and its rules. But life outside of her imagination was becoming more complicated. Later in 1990, just a few months after the train ride, Joanne experienced a devastating personal loss. Her mother passed away after a long struggle with multiple sclerosis. This loss hit her very hard. Joanne had never told her mother about the Harry Potter story she had started writing, and she regretted that deeply. The pain of losing her mother found its way into her writing. The theme of death, especially the death of parents, became one of the emotional foundations of the Harry Potter series. Looking for a change and a fresh start, Joanne decided to move to Portugal in 1991 to teach English as a foreign language. She took a job in the city of Porto and began a new chapter of her life. By day, she taught English to students. By night, she returned to her magical world, continuing to write the story of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It was in Portugal that she met a journalist named Jorge Arentz. The two got married in 1992 and had a daughter, Jessica, in 1993. But the marriage was troubled from the beginning, and within a few months, Joanne left her husband. She moved back to the United Kingdom, now a single mother with a baby, little money, and no job. Joanne settled in Edinburgh, Scotland, to be near her sister. She was in her late 20s, unemployed, and struggling with depression. Yet even during this difficult period, she refused to give up on her story. She would often take her daughter out in a stroller, find a cafe where Jessica could sleep beside her, and sit for hours, writing by hand. In these early adult years, Joanne Rowling had no idea that her life was about to change forever. She was simply a woman with a pen, a notebook, and an incredible story inside her. After returning to the United Kingdom from Portugal in late 1993, Joanne Rowling found herself in a very difficult situation. She was 28 years old, recently divorced, and a single mother to a baby daughter named Jessica. She had no job, very little money, and was living in a small flat in Edinburgh, Scotland. She was deeply depressed and struggling to make ends meet. At times, she could barely afford to heat her apartment. She relied on government welfare support, and even described herself as being as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. These years were some of the darkest of her life. She later admitted that she had suicidal thoughts and was eventually diagnosed with clinical depression. This painful experience inspired the creation of the Dementors in the Harry Potter books, dark, soul-sucking creatures that feed on happiness. They were a metaphor for the emptiness and despair she felt during this period. Despite all of these challenges, Joanne kept writing. Her love for the story of Harry Potter became her light in the darkness. Writing was the one thing that made her feel alive, hopeful, and in control. She wrote wherever she could, in cafes, libraries, or on the bus while Jessica slept in her stroller. One of her favorite writing spots was a cafe called the Elephant House, which later became known as one of the birthplaces of Harry Potter. She continued working on her manuscript for the first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. She didn't have a computer, so she wrote most of it by hand and then typed it on an old typewriter. She rewrote entire sections multiple times, trying to make the story perfect. She poured her pain, love, imagination, and memories into every page. In 1995, after 5 full years of developing the story and writing the first book, she finally finished the manuscript. With nervous excitement, she began sending it out to publishers. The rejections came quickly. The first publisher said no. then the second, then the third. In total, 12 publishers rejected the manuscript. Some thought it was too long. Others believed children wouldn't want to read a story about a boy wizard. She began to doubt herself, but she never gave up. Finally, in 1996, a small publishing company called Bloomsbury agreed to take a chance on her book. But even they weren't fully confident. The chairman of Bloomsbury gave the manuscript to his 8-year-old daughter to read, and she loved it. That simple moment changed everything. The publisher advised Joanne to use initials instead of her full name, believing that young boys might not want to read a book written by a woman. Joanne didn't have a middle name, so she chose K in honor of her grandmother, Kathleen. And so, J.K. Rowling was born. In June 1997, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was officially published in the UK. The first print run was small, only 500 copies, many of which went to libraries. She received an advance of just £1,500. It was a humble beginning, but the magic had begun. The book quickly attracted attention. Children loved the characters, the magical world, and the powerful story of an orphan boy who finds friendship, courage, and a place to belong. Adults were also captivated by its clever writing and emotional depth. Word of mouth spread fast, and soon Harry Potter wasn't just a book, it was a phenomenon. What started as an idea on a delayed train had survived rejection, poverty, and heartbreak. And in the process, J.K. Rowling had written a story that would capture the hearts of millions. But this was only the beginning. The boy who lived had just stepped into the spotlight. After the publication of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, in 1997, J.K. Rowling's life began to change in ways she could never have imagined. The book quickly gained popularity among children and adults alike, and soon it became clear that this was the start of something very special. The success of the first book was followed by the release of the second, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, in 1998. Once again, readers were captivated by the magical adventures of Harry and his friends at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Each new book added depth to the characters and expanded the magical world, keeping readers eager for more. By the time the third book, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, came out in 1999, the series was growing into a cultural phenomenon. Fans lined up outside bookstores for midnight releases, fan clubs formed around the world, and the books were translated into multiple languages. Rowling's storytelling connected with readers on a deep emotional level, blending fantasy with themes of friendship, courage, and the struggle between good and evil. As the books gained international fame, Hollywood took notice. In 2001, the first film adaptation of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was released. The movie was a massive success, bringing the characters and magical world to life on the big screen. This opened the door to a series of 8 blockbuster films, each based on the books, starring talented young actors like Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint. The films propelled the Harry Potter brand to even greater heights. Merchandise, theme parks, video games, and spin-off books followed. J.K. Rowling herself became a household name around the globe. From a struggling single mother to one of the richest and most influential women in the world, her rise to fame was nothing short of extraordinary. With the release of each new book, anticipation and excitement grew. The series broke sales records, with millions of copies sold worldwide. The final book, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, published in 2007, marked the end of the main story but left a lasting legacy. Beyond financial success, Rowling's work inspired a generation of readers and writers. She showed that even ordinary people can create extraordinary worlds and that hope, friendship, and bravery matter. Her story of perseverance and creativity continues to motivate people everywhere. Despite her fame, Rowling stayed involved in charitable causes and continued writing. She used her platform to support education, children's welfare, and poverty relief. The journey from writing in cafes to global superstar author is a testament to the power of imagination, determination, and believing in oneself. J.K. Rowling's rise to fame is more than just a success story, it is an inspiration that dreams can come true, even against the greatest odds. After completing the Harry Potter series, J.K. Rowling did not stop writing. She continued to explore new stories and different genres. In 2012, she published The Casual Vacancy, her first novel for adult readers. This book was a dramatic departure from the magical world of Harry Potter. It was a realistic story about politics and social issues in a small English town, showing her versatility as a writer. Following that, Rowling wrote a successful series of crime novels under the pseudonym Robert Galbraith. The Cormoran Strike series features a private detective solving complex cases. Writing under a different name allowed her to reach new audiences and experiment with a different style without the pressure of her famous identity. Apart from her writing, Rowling has been deeply involved in philanthropy. She has donated millions of dollars to causes such as children's hospitals, poverty alleviation, and multiple sclerosis research, a cause close to her heart because of her mother's illness. She founded the charity Lumos, which works to support disadvantaged children around the world. However, in recent years, Rowling has been the subject of public controversy, especially related to her comments on gender and transgender issues. Many people, including fans and activists, have criticized her statements as being insensitive or exclusionary. These debates have sparked widespread discussion and sometimes polarized opinions about her legacy. Despite the controversies, Rowling's impact on literature and popular culture remains immense. The Harry Potter series has sold more than 500 million copies worldwide and has been translated into over 80 languages. It has inspired countless adaptations, including plays, movies, theme parks, and fan communities. The magical world she created continues to captivate new generations. Her legacy is not only in the books she wrote but also in the way she transformed children's literature. She showed that stories for young readers could be complex, emotionally rich, and appeal to adults as well. The themes of friendship, bravery, love, and sacrifice in her work have resonated deeply across cultures. In the end, J.K. Rowling's life story is one of remarkable creativity, resilience, and influence. From a shy girl writing stories about rabbits to a global literary icon, she has left an unforgettable mark on the world. Her journey reminds us how imagination and determination can change lives, not only her own but those of millions who found magic in her words.